And great to be joined by Chris Low of ESPN.com. He joins us on the Stanley Fencing and Gates hotline, and yesterday broke the news, one of the biggest stories we've seen in college football, Nick Saban retiring as Alabama's coach. Chris, thanks for making time for us. I know it's been a busy 24 hours for you with the story yesterday, as well as talking to Nick Saban today about the decision. What do you think led him to make the call to announce his retirement as Alabama's coach?
I don't think it was any one thing. I think this is something this is sort of a process he's gone through the last couple of years with his wife after year, just assessing where they are in their lives and their career, his career, and what made sense, what didn't. And, I had a chance to talk to Nick this morning. He said, listen, I'm 72 and, putting in 14-hour days at 72 is harder than it was at 62. And felt like it really wore on him this year, and then maybe he couldn't do it the way he wanted to do it and give the kind of commitment that he wanted to give to the players. He only knows one way. And a lot of coaches are like that, but he's like that times about a million. He's not going to scale back and it's and sort of maybe bring somebody else in to help him with this or other details. He's going to be hands-on. He's going to recruit. He's going to travel around the country. He's going to be out on the practice field every day. He's going to be in every morning. Heck, today's his first day of retirement. He's back in the office at 7:20. So I just think he felt like that. In his words, it was time for him to move on. And I don't think he had completely finalized his decision until he got back on campus after going to Florida. But, as he interviewed coaches and individual players, I just think it became more apparent to him that it was best, as he said, to let somebody else come in and take it over. And he doesn't do anything. He's just one of these guys who's pretty meticulous about making decisions. And he said this is a carefully thought out deal. I think it's entered his mind the last year or two as he's gotten a little bit older. But I think this year he was really happy with the way this team improved and went from being a team that, could have lost 3 or 4 games to being a team that got in the playoffs and was an overtime loss away to Michigan to playing in the national title game. And, people say, well, why do you think he didn't want to stay and hang around and chase another championship? Nah, that's just not the way he's wired. And he'd always told me, that when he did quit, he wanted to make sure enough quality of life left to do the things after football that he wants to do. And I think that's, again, another reason that it's now. And it's no secret. He didn't like this. He didn't like the fact that, there's no uniformity, that NIL has turned into pay for play, that the portal is players moving around, multiple times. In particular, the tampering that goes on. And he just, that's not his cup of tea. But it is, again, as he told me, I asked him about that this morning. He said that is not a reason that he's leaving. He said that did not drive me out. He said, was I frustrated by it? Yeah, but name me a coach who's not. We've adapted. We continue to win in this era, even with some of the stuff in football he didn't like. But at the end of the day, he just was ready to walk away from football. And I think today that, honestly, having known him for 20 years, I guess I knew it was coming, but, when you're around him and you cover him, you think he's going to be coaching football forever. But I guess nothing lasts forever. And now the SEC will change a ton without him coaching in the league.
Chris Low, ESPN, with us. How involved do you think he'll be in Tennessee, but Alabama going out and hiring the next coach?
Well, I think it's going to be, again, things change, but I think it's going to be Norvell or DeVore. I think it's one of those two guys. Now, somebody like Sarkisian, a long shot, potentially, maybe. But it's not going to be Dabo. It's not going to be Dan Lanning. It's not going to be Lane Kiffin. I think they'll talk to other people. I think D'Amico Ryan's a guy that they're certainly going to gauge his interest, and they should. I think Mike Loxley's another guy that they'll probably talk to. Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator there at Notre Dame, was his first year this year. But if you ask me right now, and again, I know how fluid coaching searches can be, I would say that the top two right there at the top of the list or Mike Norvell or Rob DeBoer, two really good football coaches who had excellent years.
What is next for Nick Saban? Does he want to be involved in what happens, however the transition is in the sport of college football, with all that he's talked about, what he likes, what he doesn't like? What's next for him related to the sport?
Yeah, he's going to have a presence, told me, there at the university, whether it's special assistant to the president or ambassador or whatever. And I don't know how detailed or that will be, but he certainly wants to stay involved. As he told me, listen, this place has been great to me. I want to do anything I can help in this transition. He's not going to be there in the office every day looking over people's shoulders. That's not who he is. But I do think he will be a resource for them in every way. And I do think that during this search, and I don't think this Alabama search is going to take a whole lot longer. I'd say they'll have somebody in the next few days. He will be someone that they're going to lean on. But he's not going to be out. He's not out there spearheading the search. I heard somebody say the other day, well, he'll be the one to name a successor. No, that's not the way it's going to work. Will Greg Byrne and the powers that be at Alabama lean on him and get his advice and ask him about, hey, have you coached against this guy? Have you recruited against that guy? What do you think? Yeah, absolutely. And I think Nick is and will be more than willing to be a resource for him. But I think if they ever hire a commissioner for college football, Josh, if we ever get to that point, and I think probably we will at some point, where there's just a big conglomerate of teams playing in one big conference or two big conferences, and they have to have a guy that's sort of the voice of college football. I think Saban would be great for that, and I think he would be interested. He's told me that he wants to see college football not only with more uniformity, but with a voice that sort of carries and resonates around all of college football. And there's not all these different, whatever, all the differences that we see now in college football. And whether it's the NFL questions or the portal questions or the recruiting calendar, which also drives coaches crazy. I think that's something that if they ever came to him and we get to that point, which again I think we will, I could see Nick being someone who would be interested in that.
Chris Low, ESPN, had the report yesterday, the news, Nick Saban retiring as Alabama's coach. Swain, you're shaking your head, by the way, over there.
Yeah, I don't think I want to see Nick Saban as a commissioner. I'm good on that. I think he would be a good commissioner. It's just hard for me as a Tennessee guy to see a former Bama coach being a commissioner like that. That would not help me sleep well at night at all. I just no sir, don't want to see it at all.
Probably Auburn fans would feel the same way.
Yep.
LSU fans, all the teams he's beaten up on for 17 years, would probably all feel the same way. But you got to work somewhere, and we all got to go to school somewhere. But to me, it's got to be someone. It better be a football-centric person, someone who has coached, who understands, who's recruited, who gets all the. I go back to the committee that was part of going down the whole road of NIL, and I think there was one or two football people in the room. David Cutcliffe being one of them. I think he told us this story, Swain, on the show.
Mm-hmm.
He was on The Nation with us a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And they're like, well, yeah, this is something. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go. Collectives and kids can make money on their name, image, and likeness, which they should, by the way. But this will not be in any way, shape, or form used as a recruiting tool. Well, what person who's ever coached or recruited in football thought that was even remotely would be the case? So they need football people making football decisions. I'm not saying all decisions, but certainly guys who've been around the sport and coached in the sport and have been there every day, boots on the ground, recruiting and coaching, to be involved in some of the changing landscape of college football. So I vote Swain. Listen, Swain didn't want an Alabama guy in there. I vote Swain. Here are my top three. If you go Tennessee people for that job, Swain, Peyton Manning, and Austin Price.
Oh man,
Well, Swain would get, let's call it the CEO role. I think Peyton would be a good vice president.
Wow.
Executive VP to Swain.
Wow. Y'all are goofy.
And then Austin could carry a number of hats around in the organization.
Gosh.
He's built for it. Chris, anything stand out as you reflect here in the last day since you reported the news and you've had a chance to talk to Nick Saban? You've covered him for so long. When you just think about the impact on the sport, the change moving forward? I mean, the Alabama job is as big as it gets in the sport, and who they hire is going to have a great impact on what happens next, too.
Yeah, and what kind of patience they have with whoever the next guy is. Because you guys know what's like going in behind Nick. I mean, good grief. I can't imagine, what that's going to be like for anybody. And, does the guy come in for 4 years and take him to the playoff a couple of years, and maybe miss it 1 year, maybe lose to Auburn, gasp a year or two, and go 30-99 over 4 years or 41-9. They say, you know what, it's not good enough. We're moving on. So that to me will be fascinating, is not only who they hire, but what kind of patience they have. And because that fan base, you talk about spoiled, that fan base has been unbelievably spoiled. And I'm not saying they're not grateful. I know a lot of folks, and got to know tons of great Alabama fans and boosters over the years. But when you have a run like that with a guy like that, the guy, a coach, I don't know who will ever see a coach like that in their lifetime in college football. You don't take it for granted, but then again, you sort of do take it for granted. And coaching still matters. I mean, recruiting, coaching, developing, and he was all those things. So I want to see, Josh, just what that aftermath is going to be like. The patience, just how he is the next guy given a quote-unquote stroke to set it up and do it exactly the way Nick did, because not many coaches get that stroke. Not many schools are willing to do that, but they did for Saban, and look what it brought him. When the next guy get that stroke. So those are all some of the things that I will be watching for going forward. And how does it shape the SEC? I mean, Kirby's got it going at Georgia. Is this an opening now for a Tennessee, for an Ole Miss, for an LSU, for anybody to jump up in there and be that second dog behind Georgia?
Is Nick aware that there's fans at his statue acting like he passed away or something, dropping off Coke bottles and teddy bears, and I saw like a plastic duck, Monster Energy drinks, like candles lit, like flowers. Does Nick know that people are reacting like he's passed away or something?
I'll tell you how oblivious he is to stuff like that. When I talked to him today, he told me, he said, "I'm not even going to do a press conference. I don't want to. I just want to move on. I want to do here. I got to top some loose ends here in the office." A lot of coaches, Swain, say they don't pay attention to this or that, or they don't read stories. Yeah, they always know what's written about them, but they say they don't. Saban's really like that, unless his wife says something to him about it, or his daughter or one of his assistants puts something on his desk about the kind of stuff we were talking about, or whatever it is. He's such a tunnel vision guy that, I mean, he really doesn't know. So probably no. I doubt very seriously he knows about that. He's probably thinking about, the next Mercedes dealership he's going to buy, or where he's going to go. He's bought a couple golf courses. I mean, he's been pretty involved in business deals like that. So I think the last thing on his mind is, some guy out there at his statue, putting a shrine around his statue. But when's the last time? I'm trying to think the last time he coached this legendary and this beloved by his fan base has just sort of quit, and it not really been completely expected. Remember, Mike Krzyzewski did sort of a victory tour.
Yeah.
He announced he was going to resign. He coached that year, and he was gone. I mean, you guys helped me. When's the last time a guy?
Yeah.
Roy Williams?
Yeah, Roy's was kind of abrupt, wasn't it, at UNC just a few years ago?
Well, yeah, that would be comparable, and
yeah.
I don't know that Roy's career rises to the level of Nick's, but it's at least in that zip code.
Yeah.
But in football, I can't think of one in football, and I know I missed somebody that Spurrier quit in the middle of the season at South Carolina. I mean, you guys tell me. Who am I forgetting?
Yeah, it's rare. It feels like it's more often a Belichick-type ending, which we see today, where there's speculation leading up to it, where it's all everybody's talking about.
Yeah, that's the other thing I admire about Nick is he goes out at a time when they're still on top. He's got a good football team coming back. The program's healthy. It hasn't dipped. I mean, I know a lot of people in week 2 or week 3 were saying he was done. He lost his fastball, and Alabama was going to have an awful year. But, I mean, that's happened a couple times over the last 5 or 6 years, it seems. But, this really comes across to me as a pretty selfless move. It's not because he's afraid they're going to go 8-4 next year. And I know the Rose Bowl loss was disappointing, but he really goes out at a time when he's on top. And very few coaches. I remember talking to Bill Snyder about this at Kansas State. Even a guy like that who brought that program up from the ashes was sort of forced out at the end. I remember him telling me a few years ago when I visited with him there in Manhattan, Kansas, he said, Chris, very few of us, very, very few in this business go out the way on our terms or the way we want to. So, yeah, this is a unique deal that a guy like that who's been there as long as he has goes out this. When do you think – I mean, Kirby may be the answer to this, but how many guys will coach at one school in the SEC for 17 straight years? Again.
Yeah. I would predict no one, and then if it happens, I'll tip my cap and be surprised because what a run it would be. But it's unmatched. It's unmatched, especially in the evolving college football world that we're in. As big of a story as we've seen in a long time. Chris, we're running out of time, so we'll let you go. But we appreciate you making time, as always, but especially today after the big story you broke yesterday. Thanks so much for joining us today.
The real Hollywood. Thanks, Chris.
You bet, guys. Take care.